The interesting thing is,
The screen share. Oh, now that we're legal, I'll recall the meeting to order. I do not have a double computer today, so if you guys can, if we have screen share, if not, we'll walk through it. And looks like Kate's working on something. I see her looking determinedly at the screen.
How's that?
Perfect. So I believe last time, as we were discussing and talking about the meeting changes and times, we discussed really focusing on the finance items on the agenda, items that relate to finance and decisions surrounding that. So I will turn the time over to Kate to walk us through those. And if anybody has any questions along the way, feel free to jump in.
Yeah, I'll take it. So it's going to be resolution 88 through 96 as finance. So we can get through these, I think, relatively quickly. The first is just the monthly financial reports. So we'll jump right into the second one, being the workers' compensation expenditure. The 22, or as we've now got the final numbers from the county, it's just a little bit more than the budget. I don't know if there's anything else you want to add to that, but it's $9,500 you see there in that resolution number 89. So this just pulls that money out of contingency and beefs that up so that we can move forward with that. So the next resolution, being number 90, is our annual insurance renewal agreement. So we obviously, our insurance broker is Chris Hubler. We've gone to bid multiple times in the past. This year was a renewal year with HCC, Houston Casualty Company, which is our carrier company that we've been with for the last 3 or 4 years now. There is a small increase you see actually in the attachments, attachment number 5. There is some increases overall. There's a summary page at the beginning of that. In attachment number 5, you can see there are some increases. Some of the increases are actually relative to the addition of new equipment. What happens is with our insurance, Jim calls and he says, okay, we bought this truck, I need an insurance card for it. So they add it. And then Jim calls said, okay, we added another truck, or we added a piece of equipment, or whatever the case. They don't actually re-bill us for any of that. We actually only get the bill at the next renewal time period for the combination of all of the equipment. So the net result is actually an increase. It's not a huge increase, but there is an increase in the year-over-year expenditure for overall the insurance, but it also is playing catch-up essentially on all the equipment and all the different changes that we made. So the very last page of the attachment pricing comparison, you can see if you're comparing apples to apples, our insurance would actually go from $98,413 to $104,950. So it's about a $6,000 increase, give or take. However, the cyber liability insurance that we had for last year, we're actually not recommending to renew that. That's $3,727 last year. The premium this year would be $3,451. The reason that neither Chris Hubler or myself are recommending that we do that is because they increased the deductible from $2,000 to $25,000. And there's very few times that we would actually incur that type of IT related expense, especially to justify the $3,400 premium on a $25,000 deductible with the way that we back everything up. Even now with our offsite backup and our cloud-based backups and stuff, even when we had the most recent hack that we had, our total expenditures was like $1,000 or something. It didn't even hit the $2,500 deductible, let alone a $25,000 deductible. So it's just really not worth it, and it doesn't cover equipment or servers anyway. So
if someone came in here and hit you with a ransomware, you could shut it all down and use your backup.
Yes. Yes.
That's what happened a year and a half ago.
Yes. That's exactly what happened.
So you must have so you must not have everything on the same systems.
We have redundant.
You got redundant.
Yeah. Just for that specific reason. So when all that is said and done, if we back out the cyber liability of $3,451, that would take our 2022, April 1st, 2022 through March 31st, 23 premium, you see here in resolution number 90, to $101,499.46. And that's paid from both the unallocated insurance as well as SW 500 being Canandaigua Consolidated. So essentially what you're doing is you're increasing the premium from $98,400 to $101,000. So it's less than a 5% increase, which is the industry average right now for insurance with all the unknowns. So
We also added $5 million to that in buildings.
yeah,
So that's pretty good.
on the last page of
For
the
all our-
attachment, you actually see a breakdown of all of that. We added 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I think 6 vehicles. Plus we added the wheel loader, plus we added the water tanks,
Tank,
the
pump
2 new
stations.
tanks, right? The
Yeah.
pump stations, there's a lot of
How many
additions.
vehicles you take out?
2,
Two
3, no, 2.
vehicles out.
Who insures the new park?
What's that?
Who insures?
It's also in this.
What do we have for liability limit on that?
We added, so it's equipment valued at 500,000,
No, I don't
which
mean
is
equipment, I'm talking about
Liability.
liability.
well, the liability is 2 million, I believe, is the, hang on a second, that's under my liability, hang on.
And then you've got an umbrella on top of that?
Yeah, which is
Okay.
10 million.
Okay, all right, that's fine, Doug.
Can I ask why we're using some funding from the Canadian Consolidated Water?
Because like the water tank and stuff, like me as a resident of Canandaigua Farmington, I have no benefit from Canandaigua Consolidated.
Yep.
So Canandaigua Consolidated has to pay their own insurance.
So we don't have insurance on Canadian Farmington as well, or
Farmington
Sure they do.
pays it.
Farmington's paying it? Okay,
Mhm.
that's fine. Thank you.
Any other questions on any of that stuff? That's a big, every year, but Chris Hubler always goes through that. Chris, obviously, I think everybody knows is a town resident, and he pays a lot of attention to all that stuff, and Jim did a great job going through like the equipment inventory and making sure it all matched
All
up and
matched up.
everything. That's a,
Added anything that wasn't there, so.
yeah, that's a huge help as we go through all that, so. That's-
We've added, that's a small increase.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. And the water tanks in the playground, a motion junction, plus all the equipment, I mean, we still have that small of an increase. Actually, we didn't make out too bad there. And it is budgeted, there's enough money budgeted for that. Okay, the next resolution is lawn mowing. We did an RFP, Lindsay, run.
Yeah, so we had 4 bids total, so that was exciting. So we had some choices. So this year we're going with Mentis Landscape and Property Maintenance specifically for our cemeteries. They were the lowest bid at $9,900 for the season. And then we are going with White Boys Landscaping for all of our parks, the Peanut Line Trail, Old Brookside, and Town Hall Campus with a seasonal rate of $47,949.98. Which still falls within our budget that was allocated and approved for the $70,000 for lawn services.
How often do they cut? As needed or?
As needed, yeah, there's specific standards that they have to maintain, so the grass height cannot go above 3 inches, so if they have to mow twice in 1 week to keep it under that standard, that's the requirement.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
So Lindsay, have we discussed with them and kind of walked through, I know we had some cemetery issues last time with stones being hit and moved. Are we gonna kind of walk through it with them?
Oh, yes.
They understand the nature of what they're doing?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. One thing I also want to mention too with this new landscaping company, they service Wayne County diocese. So I called their reference and they mow cemeteries for them, and apparently
Okay.
they do exceptional work. But yes, we will be walking through each cemetery with them.
Okay, thank you.
Joe, you and I are out of a job for the summer.
Wanna cut grass?
I could have.
Zero turn, baby, zero turn.
We know how quick you move, Greg.
We're looking for park rangers.
I'm signing up, You in?
Oh, boy.
Putts in.
Okay,
So
all right,
you
we're
in?
in.
Okay, good.
You get a hat, you know.
Hat and a shirt.
I just want to highlight on that one too, when Lindsay put together the RFP, which is part of the attachment for this resolution, she specifically separated the parks and cemeteries to call out that additional care for the cemeteries, which is what's allowing us to give an award to one company for cemeteries and one for the parks, because we really listened to what the residents and the history committee was saying about that damage.
The next resolution is the appointment of the reappointment of the Finance Committee, and then appoints Jared and Karen as co-chairs, and so that everybody's on the same page, just says that we're planning to meet at 10:45 on the third Thursday. And then in addition to that, just so everybody knows, the LDC has now moved the time of their meeting to 8:30. They're on a permanent basis, kind of flip-flopped Finance and LDC.
It's the Thursday before the town board
Thursday
meeting,
before the
which
town
isn't
board.
always
Yes.
the
That's the
third
third.
Thursday.
Yes, I'm
But the
sorry.
Zoom did list the
Listed all the
dates
things.
for 22.
Well, that's when you sell to.
Yes.
And are we still doing the Thursday after?
Only if we need it.
Well, wait, let's start.
Right.
I thought the discussion was we were only gonna meet once a month,
Mhm.
and it was gonna be the
Yep.
Thursday before the town board
Right.
meeting, and that was it,
That's,
right?
yeah, that's what Lindsay, that's what Kate just said.
And then if something finance came up, we would,
Schedule.
as a group, schedule something special that would be
Correct.
posted in Eugene's office.
Okay. The nenext resolution is approving the agreement with Pine Bank Cemetery. Do you wanna just touch on that? It's-
Yeah, last year we formalized our agreement with Pine Bank Cemetery. You'll see in the attachment, the agreement that was originally adopted back in 2021. And that agreement allowed for each party to extend annually. The Pine Bank Cemetery Board reached out to me earlier this year and let us know they are very, very happy with the partnership and would like to continue it. So this just formalizes the town board agreement with that. There is a voucher that matches up with this resolution to go ahead and remit that financial assistance of $5,000 in exchange for the items listed in the contract: maintenance, participation in the Cheshire Memorial Day ceremony, assistance to the historian and town residents, and they still have lots, so they make lots available to town residents for purchase as well.
Anybody have any questions on that? Okay. Next one, actually, the next two resolutions relate to the appointment of assessor. So the first resolution would be to authorize us to enter into agreement with the town of Farmington with an intermunicipal agreement that if the town of Canandaigua and the town of Farmington were to appoint the same person as assessor, that essentially each municipality can appoint their own person, whoever they want. But if they appointed the same person, that each municipality would be responsible for the expenses of that municipality. And the assessor would be granted the equivalent of full-time employee benefits as if the person was a full-time employee of the town of Canandaigua. And the town of Farmington would reimburse the town of Canandaigua annually for half of those full-time benefit expenses. That it also goes in to say that the assessor would work approximately 20 hours a week in each municipality. The assessor would work ideally 2 days a week in Canandaigua, 2 days a week in Farmington, with the 5th day being a float day for the assessor to share between the two municipalities wherever the workload is needed for that particular time. In addition, we both understand that's outside the agreement, but we also understand the need to provide support for this assessor who's working in both municipalities. And so we have already begun that process with Michelle Rollison from our development office, switching to the office of assessor and real property. She's actually already started taking her assessor classes and training this week, and she'll be providing full-time support to the assessor. So, any questions on?
Is this renewed every year?
This agreement would renew automatically unless there is a ending to it by either municipality within 90 days notice, or with 90 days notice.
Does Farmington make the same commitment on their assistant?
Yes, and they have also put that person in place.
There was talk of two people at that level before the split assessor. So there's not gonna be two people, just one person in each office.
Right now, we currently have one person in each office. The development office has extra support that can provide support, clerical related support for that office also, which in my opinion is a benefit of having the Office of Assessment in with the development
get that.
office, because it's all,
Yeah, but my
But
question is, that
full-time assessor one, or full-time
assistant
real property appraisal aid one.
aid, okay.
Any questions?
My only comment there's a ton of work to do here.
Any other questions on that?
We spoke about a amendment within the,
Yes, thank you for
Agreement.
bringing that up. Farmington, the Farmington attorney sent over an email to us yesterday, adding one word, or I'm sorry, one sentence. It was a few words. Do you have it in front of you by any chance?
I do. They want to add, and each municipality shall be responsible to pay the salary or wages earned by the assessor for the time the assessor actually works for that municipality and not the other. So
So
that's
it's
the
not a 50-50
amendment.
split then?
Why
It's
not?
work paid for work you.
Well, if they
Right,
work 30 hours here and 10 hours there,
Right.
we're gonna pay them an hourly wage based on their salary?
No, but
That's
they
what
would,
it says.
That's what that says.
That's exactly right.
wait, read that again for us.
And each municipality shall be responsible to pay the salary or wages earned by the assessor for the time the assessor actually works for that municipality
Yeah, but it's
and not the other.
it's in a sentence that is part of something else.
It's in section 8.
So
Can we pull up that whole sentence so we can look at it?
I
This
mean,
is-
that's saying,
I
in
don't
that sense by
think the
itself, don't pay them
amendment's
hourly.
on the agenda because
it's
it just
not.
came in after it
Okay,
was finalized.
So it's part of a sentence, it's all section 8. Section 8 is supervision and pay. And Kate, I don't know if you want to pull that up, but that actually is where it spells out. Each municipality determine normal working hours and conditions support the same person work 20 hours per week in the other municipality as requested by the appointed assessor, approved by the town supervisor of the town of Farmington and the town manager of the town of Canandaigua. It's understood if the same person is appointed part-time assessor, the assessor would likely spend 2 days per week at each town hall, with the 5th day of the week being used as a floating day for working in town hall, where the workload demands attention as determined by the assessor. It's generally understood the assessor will spend approximately 20 hours per week in each municipality. And then the section previous to that, section 4 talks about costs. It says, when the towns of Canandaigua and the town of Farmington appoint the same person as part-time assessor, the town of Canandaigua shall make available to the appointed assessor benefits in keeping with Canandaigua's employment policies available to all full-time employees. The Farmington appoint the same person as part-time assessor, then Farmington shall pay to the town of Canandaigua half of the annual expenses for the appointed assessor benefits in an amount not to exceed $20,000 per year. And then the salaries would actually be set by each municipality for whatever it is that they're doing. So
that's
each
not what that says,
municipality.
right? You agree that's not what that says? Karen's
Well,
right.
but that's tacked onto another sentence, and I just don't.
I mean, it sounds like that's in relation to that Friday float day.
It does allow for
fifth float
salary
day.
or wages, so if you were to decide to pay an hourly wage, that allows it to be hourly, but it does specifically state shall be paid responsible to pay the salary or wages for the time worked. So if we determine that for the time, the salary is, I don't know if
Right,
you
but
gotta
if-
set
but if
a
they work-
salary, but.
If they work 40 hours and 25 of them are with the town of Canandaigua, the town of Canandaigua is gonna pay that person for 25 hours, according to that.
So it's inserted in the second sentence. I just pulled it up here. So the section is section 8. It says supervision of the assessor shall remain with the organizational structure of each municipality for that municipality. Either municipality may determine the pay rate for the assessor of that municipality at any time, and each municipality shall be responsible to pay the salary or wages earned by the assessor for the time the assessor actually works for that municipality and not the other. And then it continues, each municipality to determine normal working hours and conditions to support the same person also to work approximately 20 hours per week. So it's in the second sentence, at any time. Let's see, what you have on the screen there is second sentence, either municipality at any time. So right there is where it says, and each municipality shall be responsible to pay the salary or wages earned by the assessor for the time the assessor actually works for that municipality and not the other. So it's inserted right where her cursor is.
Has Chris Nadler looked at this?
Has our
Any
attorney looked at
comments?
that?
So I assume if someone is working 25 hours a week here and 15 there, I mean, we're gonna look for a ceiling down the road for half time. I mean, if we needed them for a whole month at that many hours, these do those
Well, it says
wages or
20 hours in
salary.
approximately each municipality per week.
Right, but is it a salary or is it an hourly wage?
Right.
I mean, if he's salaried, if the person, he or she is salaried and they work 25 hours, they're gonna get paid
Salary.
X amount. They're gonna get paid a salary. According to that,
But they're
they're gonna get paid for the hours they worked.
They're gonna be paid
Which
10,
to me,
16
they're
cents
gonna
of
get
of a
paid-
month, right? Or
They're gonna get paid an
Five,
hourly wage. Or they're gonna
15.
get paid an hourly wage on top of their salary.
or 5/8 of a 2-week pay period.
And it's confusing.
It is
I
confusing,
don't understand why you guys think it's confusing.
because it's either or.
How is it either or? The person has a salary.
Right.
The person will make $40,000 a year for the town of Canandaigua. The
Okay.
salary's been determined by the town board of Canandaigua, just hypothetically for a second. They're working half-time here, essentially. They're working 40 hours a pay period here. They have time and attendance responsibility, just like any other employee.
Right.
And their time is assigned by the town manager of the town of Canandaigua. I don't understand what the,
Well, then if you just, let's just play it out. You have this gentleman or lady come in for 25 hours for for a 4-week period, okay? That it's
They
demanded,
couldn't.
it's demanded that
They
he or
would-
she would be there for a specific surface.
they would have to
Service.
work 40 hours in a 2-week period, right? In the town of Canandaigua. So they would have to work 80 hours in the example that you just used, not 25. Otherwise, I would provide them a counseling memo and they're not meeting their responsibilities as an employee, and then that kicks into whole other things.
Okay, let me give you one other twist. So one of these assistants resigns.
That's completely separate from this.
I know it
but-
is,
Okay,
but it's not separate to the workload.
well, we're not,
If you lost somebody for 8 weeks or 12 weeks to replace, right?
Mhm.
There has to be, so that's what I think is behind this activity of this. This is a request from their attorney, right?
Mhm.
No. So how do they explain it?
What his intent was to make sure that each municipality is paying their expenses, from what I understand the conversation I had.
And that statement is doing that, right? It's
Right.
not 50-50. That's all I'm saying.
Say expenses or salary?
It says either one,
Not
It's the
expenses.
salary.
Expenses have nothing to do with
or
it.
wages.
Salary or wages earned by the assessor.
But do we have them broken down into a wage? I agree with the question that's being brought up. I mean, the person was hired at salary X, which is 40,000. So regardless on whether they work 20 hours a week in Canandaigua or 30 hours a week in Canandaigua and 20 hours that same week in Farmington, I would think that at a salary, they'd still be at that 40,000.
Yeah,
But that's not true. Wait, let's talk that out for a second, because, this is a civil service position, right? So the person, and I think this is an FLSA non-exempt, right?
They don't receive overtime.
They don't receive overtime. Okay, so this one is an exempt. So this one, in that scenario, so if they worked 50 hours in Canandaigua, even though they're being paid for 20 hours in Canandaigua, that's it.
Okay,
That's all they get.
all right, that's fine.
So they're gonna average that over the pay period.
No, so we have a time and attendance, every single employee, including
Right.
myself, we have to clock in, clock out. We have to demonstrate required minimum number of hours. So this employee will be required to demonstrate a minimum of 40 hours in a 2-week time period.
And then all this is saying is, so you're interpreting this, all this is saying that each municipality is gonna pay for the time that they work for each town.
Right.
It's fine.
Which is set at 40,000 a year salary.
Correct.
They have
I still think that sentence does add, I mean, if we're having this much trouble wrapping our heads around it and they're smarter minds at that table than mine, it does add a little bit of minutia and a little bit of gray area in it.
You want me to go back to Farmington, just see if we can?
This was fine the way you had it, is my view.
Yeah, I thought that was fine, just the way it's put right there.
I mean, we're paying them in a pay period. We each pay the assessor for 40 hours. If it takes them more than that to maintain their workload, then so be it.
On them.
Yeah, Doug, why don't you
But
do?
they should never be working less than 40 hours in a pay cycle for either municipality.
Well, they could work
Well,
less.
they could,
and still
means
get
they-
paid 40,000.
Well, they could, but that would be a performance issue.
That's
That
right.
would then, that falls under completely different stuff. That would have nothing to do with the IMA with.
But that would be an HR issue. I mean, that would be the exception and not the rule, but the expectation is 40 hours a week in each minute, 40 hours of pay period in each municipality. And that they shouldn't go under it. I think what they're trying to get at is if one or the other's in the middle of a reeval and they require greater services, then that would have to be a negotiated thing. If Farmington comes and says, hey, you did your reeval last year, we're in the middle of it this year, we're gonna need him more than 20 hours a week, we're gonna need him 30 hours a week, then they would be on the hook for that extra time, is what I think the intent of this might have been. I'm just trying to figure out intent. I'm not quite sure.
That's what I'm looking at, Jared. That was my question.
And
So,
this is only to the end of this year.
Correct. Well, but it automatically renews.
Right, but I mean.
so
we
that
have-
would be, I think that it just needs to be rewritten, something like if either municipality requires greater services from the assessor at an agreed upon time, they would then therefore be required to increase their compensation for the extra amount of time they're expecting, or something like that. That's how again, like Joe, like you're saying, Joe, I think that's what they're getting at, but it doesn't really say it too clearly.
So can you do that, Doug? Ask them what the intent of this thing is.
James,
See if
Yes.
they,
Would you like some?
is that,
keep them moving.
is that the
I'm
general
off the sugar high
direction that
now.
everybody wants to go? You want me to go back to Farmington and see why the attorney wants that and let them know that we're concerned with that change?
I would agree with that, yes.
You could ask them, but I mean, it seems to me that over time, we each have to do revals.
Right, it balances out,
That
you're
is
saying,
gonna,
right?
yeah, over the long haul, it'll balance
That's why I wouldn't
out,
even
but-
accept that proposal from, it says it fine here.
But these guys are looking at cash flow, they don't wanna be paying, you know, if the guy's working 40 hours here in that
Right.
period of time,
Mm.
and they're not getting any benefit from them, they don't wanna pay, they want us to pay. I mean, the top number, 80, whatever the number is, that's what the
Divided by two.
assessor's gonna get,
Yeah.
but
It seems
that
like it would make more
balance-
sense if he was hourly, but being salary with this agreement.
Well, you take-
Well, you would take their salary and turn it in.
divided by
You do-
2,040
you do-
hours.
If they worked
you
an
know,
extra
and-
10 hours here, their salary, their hourly pay based on their salary would be close to. So they'd still be making X amount of dollars for 40 hours a week.
you know.
And the issue is that this person is desperately needed for both
Right.
towns, right? So let's not let words get in the way of the work.
Right.
Are we on different schedules for revals?
Interesting question.
If we aren't, that could be a big problem.
Let's not get into the workload. That's
All right.
completely separate. Let's stick to the
Okay,
IMA.
sorry.
So,
Scratch that.
so what's happening with the IMA? I need to do something today on the IMA.
I think we need to clarify that sentence. Either it doesn't go in there, or it more clearly states that if a municipality requires a greater amount than 20 hours a week, that they will compensate accordingly and the other municipality will not. That there'll be some adjustment, or we can look at it at the long haul and say, you know what, over time, over 5 years, I bet we probably would be pretty equal with the workload and the expectations that we have. Over the long haul, it's probably going to come out in the wash pretty darn close.
Maybe the easiest thing, and I'll certainly make some calls today, but maybe the easiest thing is for the town board to consider actually what's attached to your agenda. And if the town of Farmington wants to amend it, let them send you back an amended version that you can further debate.
I like that.
I can do that. I'm comfortable with that.
Good idea.
That would just keep it simple
Yeah.
for us for right now.
Right.
That's right.
Simple's better.
Get it on board.
Don't change.
But I will talk to them today and see if we can. Okay. So the next one is, the next resolution is actually the appointment of Paul Arndt as the assessor. So let me just spend a quick second on that. Lindsay did a great job coordinating between many, many different stakeholders, bringing people together for an interview. This was a national search. This was a full-blown national search. I think everybody needs to understand that. The ability to hire assessors right now is probably one of the most difficult positions to fill in all of government at any level. And this was a national search that we put through ICMA. We put it through New York ICMA, which is the International City Managers Association. We put it out through the New York Assessors Association. I put it out, there's an Assessors Association at the federal level that I put it out through ICMA. We advertised it on Indeed. This was a full-blown national search. This generated, I want to say, 100 plus or minus in total applications, give or take.
Nationwide.
But yes, but a lot of those applications and resumes were not qualified. And I mean, I'll give you an example. Literally, one of the people that submitted, and not to knock this, but was a fast food establishment manager with no experience. I mean, that's the type of thing.
I
we
heard
had to
Joe
weed out.
qualified. He did qualify. Did you qualify or not?
We had to weed out a lot of those,
I got
and then the top 4 or 5, whatever, 6, whatever it was, they also had to be vetted by the county to make sure that they were approved. And so it essentially came down to what, 5, 6, 4,
Yeah.
4 that first round interviews were done, and then we did second round interviews, and it was unanimous from everything I can see from the Town of Canandaigua's Board of Assessment Review and everybody that was involved, that Paul was by far and away the most qualified candidate, and by a lot. And he has a great experience. He comes to us with 7th Judicial District, a certiorari presiding judicial experience, has a fantastic amount of experience. He was previously assessor for Greece or Gates. I don't know. It's one of the G's. Anyway,
Actually, he worked in both.
he worked in
That's
both.
why.
That's why. And he has lakefront evaluation experience, very, very, very qualified. But the candidate pool is very, very, very slim.
Sounds like you did really well.
We were very fortunate in this whole endeavor. And it really came down to, essentially, there was one very qualified candidate for both municipalities. So it was a combination of, okay, how do we get the one person on board to support both, and then provide additional support with another long-range plan? Because, you know, if Paul was here yesterday, and I talked to him for quite a while. Paul made some comments that, you know, truthfully, I don't see Paul as probably, Lindsay, close your ears for a second, but as an HR thing, but Paul's probably, you know, on the short-term spectrum more so than the long-term. So he's going to get us through for a few years here, and that's why it's going to be so important for us to continue to develop our own internal talent like Michelle, and continue to backfill that. So anyway, I've gone on and on, but I wanted
You
you to
don't
have the
expect to hire
backstory.
someone forever.
Right. Yeah. Any questions on any of that?
Polite way of saying he's an old guy.
He doesn't look that way. He doesn't come across that way.
Very personable. He's
Yeah.
super excited to get involved and get
Such
going
a
and
He's good
stuff.
with your, he's good with your
Such a
salary.
sweet guy.
Yes, yes.
I watched the interviews, that was all recorded, and, you know, far and away, this guy was just up here and everybody else was down here. So.
Well done on the interviews too.
Seems like you got someone that's familiar with the area too.
Okay, last finance related resolution is the quote from sign language. Terry, I'll turn it over to you. This was a.
I didn't start the 19, somebody else's idea.
I think it was Councilman Finelli that brought up at the last town board meeting to explore replacing the sign out front.
Our gateway signs have been designed, I think they really look good. Did that whole project, that team started last year, I think, early last year. And they came up with the design, working with these people from sign language. And have to, you know, it has the right colors in it, you know, the sky, the earth. And the idea is to put these at the major gateways in town and then a few other places down the road. So it seemed to me that it would be a really good idea to put one of those same signs out here so it all ties together. These are the, images
They
of
actually
what they
made it
would look
from a
like.
photo, right? It's really truly Canandaigua from a
It's,
photo
oh,
of
no,
Canandaigua.
Do we know what the sizes of the current sign out there?
The current sign, I believe, is the 48 by 96.
Is the cost the same for each of those?
No.
The bigger signs, oddly enough, cost more.
So the 48 by 96 double-sided sign is $9,435. So that would, the resolution, the way the resolution is written, you would be approving the expenditure of $9,435. That is not budgeted. I mean, I think we all know that. So we'd have to take that out of contingency if you approve that resolution the way it is. Do that.
So where are you gonna put them?
It's just the one
Well,
sign.
this one would be out here.
Just
Okay.
the
Place
front.
that blue
And the
one.
little
Why
one?
get the bigger one?
Would be up
it's
on
one or the
332.
It's one or the other. No, this resolution, that's already all done.
Oh, yeah.
This resolution.
Just for town hall.
Where the sign going, the other
Right,
side.
right.
He was asking where the others.
Oh, the other ones.
The major entry points to
Can we,
the town, 332, 5 and 20.
So it doesn't say town hall on it.
No, no.
Yeah, that's a misnomer.
Just this.
Can we repurpose this sign to the back gate or somewhere else?
Put it on the parks or whatever. It matches the blue and white is what's on all the parks, so
Yeah.
we can put it over by Motion Junction or something. We'll do something. with it.
So
We
the
won't
question
do it.
is, with this sign, can you go back to the sign, please?
I was having a little trouble getting.
Does it say town hall on it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you're gonna have two town hall signs or just
No.
one?
Well,
We're replacing this.
just-
No, we're choosing between the big and the little one.
Okay, great,
Yeah.
great. And you chose the big, I assume.
Well, that's what the resolution
The
does,
resolution.
but it's up
I
to you
like the
guys.
big one.
A few grand more.
So you're doing this just to tie in with all the gateway signs?
That's the connection, right?
Yes.
One look.
They install it, done for that
I don't
price.
even know what
Yeah.
it looks like.
You don't have to.
Just asking.
Hallelujah.
I'm just asking.
Well, but that's why I was asking about the old one, if we could reuse that. sign.
That one you have to.
Okay.
There's nothing else on any of that. I think that's the last of the finance section.
My only comment is on the sign is that $10,000 is not terrible, but it's not great either. And for a chosen position, one might consider it, $10,000 to be excessive.
I was
How
just
long
thinking
does
you
the sign
could
last?
do other things with 10 grand.
20 years?
If the sign out there
The
looks good.
sign that's
I'd
out
like to get
here,
a
I think, was
golf cart for my
installed
ranger
in
job.
2018.
Oh,
Yeah, we had a
Relatively,
windstorm.
but we had a windstorm. The
Wind,
sign that was
yeah.
before that was probably 20 years.
Probably original, right?
Yeah.
I think the original, that design came up, I think, in my first term on the town board, so it was probably around 2010 or 11, so the original sign, I think it was the following year, so it was like around 11 or 12.
So,
But then the wind took one
replacement.
out.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think the design of the sign says more about the town of Canandaigua than a blue and white sign says.
are we choosing the size today or recommending the
Well,
size?
the resolution
It
has the
recommends
big
the
one.
large one, yes.
So you could always amend that if you chose to.
I like the large one.
8 foot wide, pretty wide.
If you could just confirm what the size of that one is before the tech board meeting, that'd be great.
The current size?
Anything else? Yeah. Jared, if I could.
I don't know if there's still discussion. You guys are kind of trailing off a little bit. So,
Can you hear us okay now?
yeah.
Okay, so Jared, that concludes the finance section of the agenda. I would ask that the finance committee with our town board members go into executive session to discuss one other item before we adjourn, if that's okay.
Okay.
So we can stop recording.
Can I get a motion to enter executive session?
I'll make it.
Wait a minute, I
All
have
right.
something. Wait a minute.
Wait.
I have something really quick.
Oh,
Please.
go ahead.
A couple of years ago, we were talking about the fee schedule and the Canandaigua school district and walk-in fees. And with parties attending with their field trips to Onondo Park, they do not pay the walk-in fee. Question has come up because I have realized this in the last week, depending on who calls and makes the reservation, whether it be a town resident who works at the school or a non-resident who works at the school. And I've talked to Lindsay about this. I need some direction so I can amend the fee schedule, but what we're proposing that if it's the Canandaigua City School District that's renting a facility at Onondo Park or any of the parks, that they pay the town resident rate. And I was just wondering what this committee's thoughts were about that, so that way I could get something on the April agenda.
Is that the only school district that uses it?
No, there's other school districts, Naples, Red Jacket, Middlesex sometimes, but Brighton sometimes comes down for a senior getaway or whatever. So yeah, RIT does, but we've always kind of, with the walk-ins, we singled out the Canandaigua City School District.
And that's what they pay now.
So, and no other school district serves the town of Canandaigua, correct? It's all part
No, Naples does, Bloomfield does.
Arlington.
I
We
don't
might have a
think,
couple in Bloomfield.
definitely Bloomfield, Naples, yes. I think that's
Yeah, I
it.
don't think.
What do you think
that's
about,
all.
what do you think about, I'll just throw this out there. Instead of Canandaigua School District, Ontario County School Districts.
That's fine
I
here.
mean, that's part of an intermunicipal agreement or whatever, or it could be considered that.
Is this for dollar?
And does it really make
No, this
that?
is the rental, like, Crouch and Rotary and Holden, the
okay.
rental facilities.
I think you bring up a good point, Joe. I mean, all the schools are tax entities just like we are, you know, and what would we ask for? I think offering that rate for county school districts. The only question I have, just because I happen to live in the Gorham Middlesex district, is that it's technically through Yates County, but services people in Ontario County. So maybe we would want to call specifically out the school districts by name, just to be clear and have no question. But I'm not opposed to offering it to any of the public school districts, the town rate.
Does that
It might
include
be
St.
something you
Mary's?
guys wanna consider and bring up at the next meeting, but
I mean,
unless
that's
you're
right.
getting that now.
Oh, well, I've got a situation with the school district, with the Canandaigua City School District right now, where I had a town resident call and make the reservation on behalf of the school district. So we're charging them the resident rate, but then I had a non-resident call on behalf of the city school district, and we're charging, because of that person is not a resident, we're charging them the non-resident rate. You get, so it's, I want it simplified. Either they pay because it's the school district, do they pay the town resident rate or the non-resident rate? And I just want it simple and very easy.
I think it's the same rate regardless of, as long as it's a school district, but you might wanna consider thinking about what we just talked about.
It's up to the town board.
That's right.
Big malls, I mean,
If it's any school.
We call it a public
A
school
public
district.
school district.
I mean, how many of these outside school
Yeah, you're not
districts
gonna
use
get
it?
a lot from like
Yeah.
Wyoming County.
Yeah.
Albany.
Park or something.
How about if St. Mary's wanted to come down?
Do they
Yeah.
charge a fee to go to that school, or do they levy taxes from residents?
No, they
Okay,
charge a fee.
tuition.
So then I would say they're not a public school district, and they would pay the rate if they're not in the town.
Private.
So public school resident rate.
But then again, if someone from St. Mary's calls, it's a town of Canandaigua resident looking at you, run back into a similar problem.
Well, I mean, we can't avoid all of that. I'm
Right.
sure you get that often where residents will call for their friends
Mhm.
and
Oh, yeah, we get it
make
all the time.
parties and that kind of thing. We certainly can't eliminate all of that, but we can, I think, give you a
So-
clearer direction.
So I will go ahead and, if it's okay, go ahead and get the fee schedule ready for the April agenda to include, the exception for public school districts to get the resident rate. If that's,
If you can include in that, it might be helpful when we're voting on it, just what the rate differences, with a couple of the different,
Well, you'll see the different rates.
Yeah.
The rate is on the town resident, and the non-resident rate is already included in the fee schedule.
Oh, yes, that's right.
Yeah. Okay.
Good.
Okay.
So the executive session is for the employment history of a particular individual, but I need to talk to the finance committee and then the members of the town board, so.
Have fun.
All right, so we had
Okay.
so now we're motion, so we had a